Welcome to the IELTS Speaking Test. Let's start off by talking about online education. In the future, do you think that AI will replace teachers in the classroom?
Yeah, I mean,
Come on, guys, this is not that difficult. This is the first question.
That's quite complicated, though. It's not a simple answer.
Come on, you can do better than this.
You think it's that easy?
you really think it's that easy being in our chairs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What? What?
Hello, Chris.
Hello,
Are you ready?
let's go.
Question number 1.
I'm actually nervous.
Question 1. Can you recall a time when you learned a crucial lesson outside the classroom?
There are so many that it's hard to pick just one, but if I had to, I remember my father always bringing me somewhere where his workmates would be there. He was a chef, and in those days, in the 80s in Ireland, being a chef was a very, very difficult job. And nearly every single one of his friends said, stay in school and work hard in school because you don't want to end up like us. You don't want to end up having to do manual labor. So that really taught me the value of education.
Well, that was an easy question.
Before we continue, download this free PDF I made for this video. This 40-page free PDF ebook contains all the high-scoring vocabulary and structures I used in the video. Plus, I've added practice questions and self-assessment tools so you can practice your speaking at home for free. Just click the link in the description and download it for free. And back to the video.
Do you ever feel conflicted between pursuing personal ambitions and fulfilling social or familial obligations?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure, but one time only.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you ever feel conflicted between pursuing personal ambitions and fulfilling social or familial obligations?
All the time. I have a lot of personal ambitions, but my biggest personal ambition probably revolves around this company, IELTS Advantage. I have always wanted to build it into the number one place to go for IELTS education. That has required a huge amount of work and sacrifice. And that means that I don't get to spend as much time with my family as I would like. For example, when Tom was growing up in Vietnam, we lived in a tiny apartment. He was a baby wanting to play with his daddy outside, and he would come and knock on the door, and I would have to say, no, I don't have time to play with you, because I would be creating a video or creating a course. But at the same time, one of the key reasons why I'm building the business is for my family, so I always feel conflicted. Like I'm ignoring my family by doing something for my family. So there's a lot of conflict in my brain.
Mm-hmm. Good
That
job.
was a good answer.
Good job.
Whatever. I was trying to be stern, and then I heard your answer, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, me too. I started smiling.
Yeah, me too. And I was
Maybe
stop
it's a
smiling.
tactic to soften you up.
Oh, men.
We don't like that. Question number 3. Have you ever felt pressured to take responsibility for a task or a situation that was outside your comfort zone?
Yes. The most difficult thing about running a business is having to have difficult conversations with people about their performance. Maybe they're not performing very well, or firing someone is horrible. That is way outside my comfort zone. I would prefer just to be sitting in a studio making videos all day and not dealing with anybody. Even dealing with people collaboratively in a positive way is draining for me because I'm very introverted. So having to tell someone that they're no longer welcome and they have to leave a company is way outside my comfort zone. But if I don't take responsibility for that, the company will suffer, and the other people within the company doing a great job will also suffer. So when somebody is affecting the rest of the team or negatively impacting the company, I have to do that. That is my responsibility as the owner of the company, even though it's horrible and I hate it.
Damn it, that was a good answer.
I have not seen these questions, by the way.
Yeah, he actually has not.
Yeah, he hasn't. Mm-mm.
So he's answering this. The first take, knocking it out of the park.
Next question, Chris. What aspect of technology do you find most challenging to navigate or understand?
Coding, I have never attempted any coding, but I think that it would be a superpower if I had it. Because most of the people that I hire for my company is some area of coding, like coding the website, or for example, we recently started a project where we're tracking how many people come in as leads and which courses they do, which requires a huge amount of, I'm saying coding again and again and again, which is not good. I can't think of another way of saying coding ability, and there's a nice collocation in there. So I spend a huge amount of money on that. But if I was able to understand that myself, I would be able to save a lot of money. But I think I would also be able to create different products like apps, or at the moment AI is coming in. So it would be pretty cool to create something like an app which gave feedback to students on their speaking or their writing, or create a Chris bot, Chris Pell IELTS bot, where people could ask me questions and get answers. But I'm unable to do that because I have no coding skills.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you believe society relies too heavily on devices and digital tools?
Yes and no. I would be a hypocrite if I said it does rely too much on it, because I use technology every single day. These cameras, these computers enable me to communicate with people all over the world and run my business. However, from a personal standpoint, I do rely on it too much because I find it extremely difficult to switch off. So when I'm at home, I'm constantly checking email, I'm constantly checking the website and the data and all of those things, and the comments, the lovely comments that people leave. It's very difficult for me to categorically answer that question. I would say no, because it has enabled all of the great things that we experience today in modern life. But yes, because it encroaches in on our personal lives. So we need to be careful with that.
Doing good so far, Chris.
Okay.
How do you balance your personal freedom with responsibilities towards others, such as family members or coworkers?
This is one of the biggest struggles I have in my life. As a father, as a business owner, I have to be very responsible and I have to be there for everybody. But at the same time, the thing that I value over everything is freedom. There is someone that I follow called Jocko Willink who says that discipline equals freedom. So the more disciplined you are, the more freedom that you have. So how I do that is I work extremely hard in sprints. Like, for example, I'm here for a whole week and I'm filming every day, basically working 16, 18 hours a day. But this weekend, I can go and hit the beach and have the freedom to do that because I have put in the work. But I'm not very responsible when it comes to one area that I need to work on is my health. I need to improve that and be more disciplined in that area. So basically, work hard most of the time, and then that gives me that little bit of freedom to play hard, which normally means traveling somewhere nice, taking my family somewhere nice, going on nice holidays. So the seemingly minor decision was to buy a book, an innocent book that changed my entire life. So I was a lawyer at one time. I was in corporate law, and during the 2008 financial crisis, I was laid off. After that, I decided to set up a bookstore, an online bookstore. So I would go to charity shops that sold books very, very cheaply, and then I would sell them on Amazon for a profit. So it was win-win. Charity won, I won. I saw a book called TEFL, Teach English as a Foreign Language, and the book wasn't that profitable. I couldn't sell it, but I thought, that's interesting. I'll buy that book and I'll read it. So it seemed like a normal decision. I don't know why, but I got really into the book, and I was like, I've never thought about teaching English before, but it seems interesting. So I decided that I would join a course called the CELTA course. The CELTA course is one where you can learn to teach English as a foreign language, and without the intention of really doing anything with it, but ended up getting an A in the CELTA, which means that you're quite good at teaching English straight off, and thought about where I wanted to go in the world. I don't know why, but decided to go to Vietnam. Just no real reason, just had an urge to go there, and got a job teaching English after doing the CELTA. And through that, met my wife, had my son, started my business, and realized that I was actually much better at teaching English than I was ever at being a lawyer. So one simple decision to buy one book created my family and my business and changed my entire life.
That answer was all right. Should we do part 3?
Mm-hmm. Part 3 is the most difficult part. So this might be the one where you actually ask me a question I can't answer.
Let's see. To what extent do you think individuals can accurately predict the long-term impact of their decisions?
To thank you for making it this far in the video, I'm going to give you 10% off our VIP course. So if you need help with not only speaking, but also writing, reading, or listening, everything's included. It is the most successful IELTS course in the world. We have helped more people get a band 7, 8, or 9 than any other IELTS course in the entire world. And today, there are a few places remaining, and I'm going to give you 10% off to make it easy to join. All you have to do is just click the link in the description. It will take you to our sales page and you can join IELTS VIP today. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video.
So there's something called second and third order consequences that might be able to predict this, but humans are notoriously bad at this. So for example, if I walk past McDonald's today, the first consequence is I feel good because I get like a fatty meal that's nice and salty and full of sugar, and I feel really good. But the second order consequence is that I get fatter, which is not good. But the third order consequence is that I die of a heart attack someday down the road. But that's so difficult to predict. And I think that's why so many people suffer in life, because the first order consequence is positive and the third order consequence is so far out in the future that it is so difficult to predict that we don't do that. So I think that we all want short-term pleasure, and it is difficult to predict what's going to happen in the future. And then there's the example of something called the marshmallow test. Have you ever heard of this? Which is they gave 3-year-olds a marshmallow and they said, I'm going to leave the room, and if you don't eat the marshmallow, we'll give you 2 marshmallows. And then they tracked the success of those children over like 30 or 40 years. And the children that ate the marshmallow had lower salaries, lower life expectation, broken marriages, compared to the children who were able to, I can't think of the word, control themselves and delay gratification. So the key to life is delaying gratification. And the people who delay gratification might not be predicting the future, but they are shaping the future in their favor, because that has positive second and third order consequences. So if I don't go to McDonald's today, I will be a little bit healthier in the future. So I think that we're generally very bad, but we intuitively do it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But I've heard better.
Is it possible to minimize unintended consequences, or are they an inevitable aspect of human choice?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Is it possible to minimize unintended consequences, or are they an inevitable aspect of human choice?
So you can minimize unintended consequences by taking precautions. So if I get into my car, I can put on my seatbelt, tell my son to put on his seatbelt. However, I do not control the other cars on the road. So just by taking the action of leaving my house and getting on the highway, I could be putting myself and son in danger, because we might meet a drink driver who slams into us and we die. So you can, to a certain extent, take a few precautionary measures, but I think the fate of the universe, like what is that saying, like the bullet with your name on it? Like if something bad is going to happen, it will happen. You have to believe in fate to a certain extent. But then the positive aspect of that as well. Maybe good things are intended for you, but that is a very, very deep philosophical question that I don't think I'm qualified to answer, but I hope that is satisfactory for an IELTS speaking test.
Damn.
There's no way to get this guy.
You got to pick a difficult one because clearly he's answering them too well.
As instant communication becomes the norm, how does public opinion affect individuals' choices, especially those in leadership positions?
So I think that when there is some kind of natural, not maybe natural disaster, but maybe something like an attack, some kind of emergency, that in the past, only the people that were there on the ground would have been affected, and it would have only been put in the newspapers maybe the following day. And certain governments, I think all governments, would maybe filter and censor some of that information in order to maybe not manipulate public opinion, but even safeguard public opinion, depending on your view. However, now, because of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, a hive mindset, a mob rule can bubble up to the surface very, very quickly, and people can come to conclusions very, very quickly without that filter of a government trying to censor the information and safeguard people for their, well, some would say their best interests. For example, sometimes there is some kind of horrible attack, and the certain groups can weaponize that by saying it was a certain race or a certain group of people that perpetrated this because they want to create a riot or create attacks on that group. And then we find out later that it wasn't that group of people at all. They're totally innocent. That puts pressure on the leadership, because leadership wants to take action and wants to safeguard people and protect people because that's their job. But they might know that this is not actually the case. And through instant messaging, it has created this false narrative. An example of that has happened recently in my own country, in Ireland, was there was I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was an attack on children on social media. A certain group of people were blamed for that, which resulted in riots and buses being burned, businesses being attacked of a small minority group. And those businesses that were being attacked were completely innocent. They had nothing to do with the actual attack that happened. So, and that was really whipped up on Twitter, on X, and created multiple riots and protests throughout. And a lot of people who were not involved, were innocent, were attacked. But if people in leadership do not placate those people by taking some kind of action, then it whips everyone into hysteria because they're like, oh, the government is involved. The government is trying to protect this group because they are favoring this group. And the government can't win in many scenarios. So I wouldn't want to be in a leadership position these days because they have to make decisions based on that and based on these false narratives. So yeah, it's beyond the scope of my knowledge and intelligence to deal with something like that. And I'm glad that I'm just a simple IELTS teacher and not the Prime Minister.
Now give me the same answer in Hindi.
So, Chris, we realize that we have failed miserably. Right, Priyanka?
Unfortunately so.
Unfortunately. So you are the pioneer and you will remain the pioneer.
But I am a native English speaker and an IELTS teacher. So let's not pat me on the back too hard. Mm-hmm. As you said, I can't do it in Hindi.
Maybe our next video could be in Hindi.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to compare my performance to Priyanka's or Isha's, click on one of these videos and you can listen to their Band 9 performances.